One of the problems you can usually run into when buying old games, and if you're a wargame collector and you want to collect really any amount of war games, you almost have to buy old games. If you want to play anything from SPI or Victory Games or Avalon Hill, these are all companies that have produced classic games, but are no longer in business. So if you want to play any of those games, you pretty much have to go out and find secondhand copies. And in some cases, particularly with SPI, those copies are going to be almost 40 years old. And usually games that old, even if they've been owned by a collector, are going to have some age and wear on them that's going to be hard to avoid. One of the more common problems is blown corners. I got this game recently, which is in otherwise excellent condition, but in fact the box itself is in excellent condition except for these two blown corners on the top. And in terms of split corners like this is about as good as you can get in terms of a repairable split. There's not a lot of tearing on the paper on the outside of the box. A lot of times when you've got blown corners on these, the corner might be caved in, or it might actually be splitting off along these edges too. And the paper that covers the cardboard can be torn, or pieces falling off or stuff like that. So this one actually looks really good. It's a very clean split, which would be fairly easy to repair. And another good thing too is that a lot of times on these older games, if boxes were split like this, the person who owned the game may have just slapped some Scotch tape or something on there to fix the split, which is the worst possible thing that you can do when repairing your box, is put tape, which is basically just glue on a piece of cellophane on a box corner like this, because eventually the glue will turn yellow and dry up, and the cellophane will split and crack and fall off, and you'll be left with a horribly marred mess of a box. As an example, here's a copy of Gunslinger that somebody had actually used masking tape to tape closed, and you can see there's this nice yellow crust along the corners here where they placed the masking tape. You can see it there, permanently discolored. I'm not. I don't have games just to collect them. I do play all of my games, so I'm not averse to buying these secondhand copies that have shown signs of use over the years. But if you are interested in collecting, or at least keeping your boxes looking good, if nothing else to improve their resale value, or if you intend to go to your grave with all your games, like I probably will, at least your widow or heirs can get some good money out of your carefully preserved collection. So avoid the tape, because it will mar your box forever, much like this, and it's hard to get off, and if you do get it off, it can make your boxes stick to the boxes that are sitting next to them on the shelf, which is never good. So fortunately, this one had no tape repair on it, and the split corner will actually be fairly easy to repair. Hopefully I can do this in a way that's visible, since I'm kind of doing it backwards with the camera facing me, but I have the camera facing me so that I can see what's going on and make sure that I've got everything in frame, and don't end up doing the repair, just out of frame so nobody can see anything, which is what I'm afraid would happen if I did this over my shoulder. So to repair corners like this, you're going to use acid-free glue, which you can get at any hobby store, and some metal L brackets like this, which you can get at any hardware store, and office binder clips. These are pretty big ones. You'll want fairly large ones, just in case you've got a deeper box than this. These bigger ones can get a little farther down the box because what you're going to end up doing is clipping them down over the L bracket. So in terms of glue, you do want to try and get acid-free glue, just because it will have less chance of discoloring the box over time. So, and this is like what archivists would use. And like I said, you can find this at any hobby store. It looks and functions pretty much just like regular Elmer's glue. It just has a natural pH. I don't actually know what Elmer's glue has, but this is what was recommended to use when I looked online about repairing box corners just like this. So we'll start with this one. First thing you'll do is just run a small line of glue, and this one's kind of nice because it's got a very like a break where the box folded over, so you can actually get a nice space to put a line of glue on. You'll see on the other corner we don't have quite that easy of a fix. In fact, what I'll do is, since this is the more common type of split rather than this, most boxes won't have this kind of lip folded over on them. The more common split will be this one, which is a straight split, where you can see literally the paper was basically holding the corner together, and so the paper just split like that. But what you'll do initially is run and let me get the glue out here, make sure it doesn't get all over the place. So you'll just run a small bead of glue along the actual seam, and then I've got Q-tips here, which you can use to kind of just make sure the glue gets spread all along the seam and doesn't bead up too much. A little bit of beading's okay, because when the glue dries you won't really be able to see it. But for this initial seam you don't want too much on there, and then you want to try and get it, if there's little paper edges sticking out, you want to try and get the box together to cover those little tatters of paper. And it doesn't actually have to stay together when you do the next part. You just want the glue on there so that when you put the metal bracket on to hold it together, the glue will eventually set. And now try and get should have opened my binder clips before I did this, because now I have to open them one-handed. Alright. So now you've got the bracket piece holding the corners in place. You can actually slide these out a little bit, so we'll have room to work in the corner. And now in the corner, what you want to do is run another bead of glue. There's no real good way to do this because, again, I'm doing it kind of backwards for the camera. Now you'll run a line of glue up the inside of the corner, and then use your Q-tips to kind of spread it out so that you don't have too much beading in the corner. And again, it's not an issue of visual appearance. If there's too much glue beading up in the corner and you've got a tight-fitting box, the glue, if you've got a big bead of glue or a big line of glue in the corner, that can actually interfere with the box closing properly or fitting over the bottom of the box. So you want to get it nice and spread around. Once the glue sets, it'll be fairly strong. And so you let that sit for a couple of hours or overnight, just to be sure. And when you take the clips off and the corner piece off, then you'll have essentially a corner that in some cases may be stronger than what the box was originally, which in most cases is just held in place by paper. An example of a repaired box is this copy of Dune. Had 3 split corners on it. You can see one here where the paper, you can see where the paper has been fit back together there. You can see the inside of the corner. Not a lot of, I'm trying to hold this in the light so you can see it properly. You can kind of see a little bit where the repair was done in the corner. But in terms of stability, and I'm not going to try and rip it open. If you put enough force on it, naturally it's going to rip open. But as far as I'm concerned, almost as good as it was originally, if not stronger. And then once you've repaired the corner itself, if there's any of the paper that's torn or sticking out or flapping around or whatever, you can use little beads of glue and your Q-tips again to kind of fasten those bits of paper back in place. And they'll hold pretty sturdily too. So again, in some cases these corners may be stronger now that they're properly glued than they were originally. So I think it was this corner, and this corner. There were 3 blown corners in there. But now it's perfectly sturdy and looks perfectly good on the outside. No ugly tape or anything like that. And a fairly simple process. So there you have it. Repairing blown box corners simply, easily. You do have to have some materials to make it work. But otherwise, that's the easy way to do it. And I'll come back, once this sets and dries, I'll come back and so you can see the finished product. You'll see that line of glue that's visible there will basically disappear once it dries. Alright, let's take a look at the finished result here. The brackets have been removed and the glue is dried. As you can see, sturdy. Shouldn't have any more issues with it. In terms of how visible it is, you can see where the glue is there. It's not white, but it kind of almost looks like it's wet or like grease or oil or something. But it doesn't show up on the outside. There's no staining or anything like that. So that's a nice aspect of it. And no, when you get rid of the line of glue or the beads of glue, there shouldn't be any interference when you put the box lid actually on the box. So we'll do that. And there you have it. Fixed box corners. Good as new. Took a, this is 1979, so 36-year-old game, and made the box almost like new. This box isn't really good condition for a lot of these old SPI games. There's a little more sagging in the middle, or you can see on the back of the box how it's kind of bowed in a little bit, which was kind of common for these old SPI box backs, because there's no reinforcing paper covering this paper that's on here. This brown stuff is not as heavy as the coated printed paper. So nonetheless, very good shape. There you have it. Fix your blown corners on your boxes fairly easily.